Deeds of Legend. The Grey Knights have fought to hold back the demonic hordes of the Dark Gods for 100 centuries, waging their war in secret against an unrelenting and tireless foe. Their deeds are known outside the chapter only as myths and legends, tales of silver-armored warriors saving humanity from the beasts of nightmare. Millennium 31 to Millennium 34, Age of Warding. The 666th chapter. Titan returns to the galaxy during the Second Founding, and the Inquisition records the Grey Knights as the 666th chapter. Under a veil of secrecy, the chapter begins its work, hunting down the demonic enemies that threaten the Imperium. Fate unravels. The demon, Astartes, the Slayer of Destinies, foresees the role that the Grey Knights will play in his downfall, and the threat they may eventually pose to the Dark Gods. Overcome with his own cunning, the Lord of Change begins a plan that will take 8,000 years to come to fruition, seeding lesser demons on worlds all across the Imperium, so that he might subtly manipulate future events. The Ghost Quell. On the desolate planet of Forlore, the Grey Knights corner the radical Inquisitor Vetrix, after enacting the psycantic Necrolaris upon the Segmentum Solar. Vetrix has been declared a heretic by his order. The Inquisitor is dragged back to the dungeons of Titan, pleading with his stony-faced captors that the Necrolaris is the Imperium's only hope for survival. The Final Sanctum. Neodan, brother captain of the Fifth Brotherhood, slays the Butcher of Zor. Only after the demon and its servants have been dealt with does Neodan discover that the creature had been tainting the meat beasts of the Blood Factorums and spreading them across Zor and its neighboring worlds. With no knowledge of how far the corrupted flesh has spread, Neodan declares a final sanction against Zor, condemning millions to death rather than risking a demonic incursion. The Hollow Cult. During their long war against the Hollow Cult and its many-limbed pleasure god, the Grey Knights lose almost the entire Seventh Brotherhood. The cult lays a series of cunning ambushes for the Grey Knights, bending reality to isolate each of the Battle Brothers and overwhelm them in a tide of demonic flesh. The Grey Knights' retribution is absolute, and Supreme Grand Master Castellan gathers the full might of the chapter against the cult. In the end, the only memory of the Hollow Cult that remains is recorded in faded ink within the Sanctum Sanctorum in the Citadel on Titan. The Lost Brotherhood. Brother Captain Edion leads a number of squads of the Second Brotherhood into the Veiled region seeking the demon effects. All communication ceases, and eventually the Council of Titan declares them lost. Millennium 35 to Millennium 36, Age of Foreboding. The Haunting of Titan. The chambers of purity are sullied by haunting spectres of the warp, the ghosts of vanquished foes clawing at the walls of reality and whispering portents of future catastrophe. The creatures warn of a time when the light of the Emperor will fail, and the Grey Knights will stand alone against the darkness, the fate of humanity resting upon the razor's edge of their blades. The Purifiers endure the maddening tirades of these ghosts, and the visions of the Imperium falling into darkness and fire. They believe these shades are but echoes of the monsters they purport to be, barely connected to the warp and able to do no more than spew forth lies. The Purifiers also know, however, that the demonic ghosts are a symptom of something ancient and powerful that slumbers beneath the surface of Titan. Eye of the Storm. A warp storm descends on the Rorn system in the wake of the Pallid Prince and his demon host. A squad of Grey Knights are trapped by the storm on the Ror Primarex shipyard. Having destroyed the Pallid Prince and his warp iron vessel, unwilling to risk discovery by the citizens of Rorn 3, and denied warp travel by the storm, the Grey Knights set out into the void at sublight speeds, the Battle Brothers entering stasis for their millennia-long voyage back to Titan. A Brotherhood out of time. Nearly 2,000 years after their disappearance, word reaches Titan of the lost brother captain Edion and his brothers. Unbeknownst to the chapter, Edion had followed the demon effects and its thralls into an area of warp that owed its existence to the echoes of forgotten moments. Edion and his Grey Knights fought at the foot of the demon's fortress of deceit, each day falling to grievous wounds only to rise again, borne up by their unwavering resolve and psychic fury. Faced with their combined might, the demon effects was finally cast down, though it was to cost Edion and his brothers their lives in the material realm. On their return to real space, their bodies begin to atrophy at an alarming rate. Before he dies, the brother captain only has time to send a coded signal to Titan, telling of the Brotherhood's victory. 1,000 deaths. Zorgar the Cruel ascends to demonhood amidst the blood-drenched battlefields of the rusting war. The Grey Knights, already fighting against the ragged host, focus their attentions on Zorgar and slay him before he can fully manifest his newfound powers. However, it amuses the Dark Gods to torment their vessel by giving him life once more, and for the next 12 years the Grey Knights hunt and kill Zorgar hundreds of times on scores of worlds. Only when the demon's mortal shell is destroyed for the 1,000th time do the gods tire of their game. A demon assassin. The Slaneshi demon assassin, Hextan, attempts to sneak onto Titan and hide amongst an intake of recruits. Initially successful, the demon lurks on the plains of the Xanadu region, amongst the bones of the dead, awaiting a suitable candidate to possess and carry it back to the citadel. However, the creature's plans unravel when a strong-willed future Grey Knight hunts it down and imprisons it in the corpse of another recruit, unaware that this was not part of his trial. The Quiet Heresy. Tzeentchian demons rob the populace of Sundala's speech, every citizen rendered mute by warp sorceries. In the silence that follows, the cult of the severed tongue is born, its debased members torturing and killing men and women with no voices to scream. For a year, the cult reigns without opposition, turning the planet into a silent hell, where corpses rot in the streets and men and women live like vermin in the shadows, fearful of making the slightest sound that will give them away. The Grey Knights confront the cult as Sandor stands on the verge of utter destruction, its cities completely given over to worshipping the very demons that orchestrated their ruin. In the empty silence, the only sound to be heard are the bark of storm bolters and the crackle of Nemesis Force weapons, as the Grey Knights purify the planet and annihilate anything in their path. Millennium 37 to 39. Age of Execration. The Tarnished Blade. The Astral Blade's Space Marine chapter is led down the path of chaos by their prideful chapter master, who has been possessed by the demon Etherak the Unrepentant. The demon's servants use sorcery to possess almost every battle brother within the chapter's subterranean fortress monastery one by one, slaughtering those strong enough to resist. As the blood of the last of the fallen is still cooling, the possessed Space Marines plunder the chapter's geneseed stores and set out for the Eye of Terror. However, when their battle barge, Sword of Stars, reaches high orbit, the Grey Knights are waiting for them. In the furious battle that ensues, Grey Knight Terminators teleport onto the bridge of the battle barge and banish Etherak back into the warp in the midst of a furious melee. Broken in body and spirit, the chapter master of the Astral Blades accepts the Emperor's mercy delivered at the hands of his saviors. Demon Maze. The heretic, Malforia the Mad, constructs a vast maze structure of ghost gas and etheric siphons in an attempt to harness the power of the warp for his corrupt machines. The maze has the unintentional side effect of trapping demons. The creatures drawn towards the device only to become lost within its multi-dimensional twists and turns. When the demon prince Caslidai becomes ensnared, Its rage shakes the structure of its foundations, and it becomes a locus for the creature's essence. The Grey Knights arrive to find the heretic a puppet of Caslidi, and his world on the verge of a full-blown demonic incursion. To defeat the demon prince, the Grey Knights enter the maze, hunting down the demons trapped within. A battle of reflections and illusions ensues, the Battle Brothers surrounded by flickering demon faces and psychic manifestations. Reaching the center of the maze, the Grey Knight Justicar cuts down the Malfuria flesh puppet and shatters the ghost glass face of Caslidi, bringing down the structure and casting the demons back into the warp. Millennium 40 to 41, Age of Anathema. The Damned Voyage. The Grey Knight's strike cruiser, Titan's Hand, suffers a catastrophic yellow field failure, leaving the ship unshielded against the warp. Almost at once, the Hand is engulfed with demonic creatures hungry for the souls of those on board. The Grey Knights stand haloed by psychic energy, each one shielding his mind and body with the blessed seals of the Aegis. Against servitors and chapter serfs turned into puppets of chaos, the Battle Brothers fight to reclaim their vessel. When the Hand finally makes an emergency translation back into real space, the surviving Grey Knights stand in the midst of a command bridge covered in the remains of their unfortunate crew. Convocation of Souls. The public execution of 666 heretics on the planet of Horvar II has terrible consequences. Through the pageantry and extravagance of the event, the near-sighted planetary governor unwittingly completes an ancient demonic ritual. As the last heretic dies with a curse upon his lips, the circle of sorcery is complete, and a gateway to the warp itself is opened. The chaos well yawns wide, and demons spill out into the mass of terrified citizens. In a matter of hours, Horvar III is turned into an arena of madness and death. The unfortunate planetary governor is possessed by the Slaneshi demon prince Lesidra, and the golden host is released upon the world. The Grey Knights arrive in force to discover Lesidra hosting bloody games with the surviving citizens, the demon forcing them to commit unspeakable acts of violence against each other, or be hurled into the warp well. Turning its attention to this new foe, Lesidra crafts a series of tests for the Space Marines, shaping tangled labyrinths of living, screaming flesh around them, and sending seekers of Slaanesh to hunt them down. The hunters soon become the hunted, however, and the Grey Knights fight their way to the warp well, where the demon prince is holding court over the mutilated remains of Horvar's citizens, wearing the skin of their governor. At the cost of the lives of a score of Grey Knights, the demon is cast back into the warp. Before the Battle Brothers depart, they pile the citizens' tortured bodies onto the corpses of the executed heretics, sealing the warp well with the blood of innocents. The first battle for Armageddon. The Space Hulk, Devourer of Stars, appears in the Armageddon system. Upon reaching orbit, it disgorges a vast chaos horde, led by the infamous demon Primarch, Angron, upon the continent Armageddon Prime. The Chaos Horde initially makes great gains, taking control of Armageddon Prime and threatening to overwhelm Armageddon Secundus. However, the defenses of the lower continent hold, chiefly due to the valor of Logan Grimnar and his Space Wolves, long enough for a full brotherhood of Grey Knights to arrive, carrying the battle directly to Angron himself. In a titanic clash, Angron and his bloodthirster honor guard are eventually bested, though it cost the lives of almost the full brotherhood. In the aftermath of the battle, the Inquisition begins a thorough program of mind wipes and executions of those guardsmen and hive defenders who had taken part in the war, in order to contain knowledge of both demons and of the Grey Knights. However, many thousands slip through the tightening noose, aided by Logan Grimnar, who vehemently abhors such practices. Thus is the Inquisition given cause to pay closer attention to the Space Wolves in the years that follow. The Cleansing of Acrylem. The notorious demon prince Makar the Reborn launches an attack on the world of Acrylem, seeking to claim it as a throne world from which he can carve an empire. Acting on an inquisitorial request, the Grey Knights spearhead the Imperium's counter-offensive, and in the final battle, the young Caldor Drago makes his name by banishing the Demon Prince. The Battle of the Ghost Halls. A dire vision from the prognosticators results in a Grey Knight strike force being dispatched to an empty point in space. On arrival, the strike force encounters the massive bioacid-scorched hulk of Craftworld, Malantai. Though its inhabitants have all been destroyed by Tyranids, Malantai is not so empty as it first appears. The ancient keeper of secrets, Nakari, and his kind stalk the fallen halls, growing bloated with power on Eldar spirit stones. Unfortunately, the prognosticators bade Brother Captain Pelinus to take as many purifiers as he could muster. As the Grey Knights launch their assault on despoiled Malantai, the purifiers lead the charge. Fire roars through the desolate halls like a hungry spirit, scattering those hellspawn that survive and leaving them ripe prey for the advancing Grey Knights. Nakari is finally cornered in the shattered dome of crystal seers. The demon fights with fury and savagely strikes down Pelinus. Yet, before the demon can land the killing blow on the fallen brother captain, Justicar Thorn throws himself into the demon's path and is laid low in his captain's place. With Nakari's weapon momentarily embedded in Thorn's flesh, the surviving purifiers are able to complete the ritual of 12 bloody swords, which drains Nakari of his stolen power and leaves him vulnerable to Pelinus' death blow. After the battle, the strike force returns to Titan with the bodies of the fallen. A score of purifiers remain aboard the Craftworld, standing guard over the empty halls. The Raxos Civil War. Civil war comes to the hive world of Raxos, when the planetary governor convinces some of the local military forces to rise up against his own regime. When the insurrectionists seize control of a Death Strike missile battery, the resulting bombardment disrupts Raxos' tectonic stability. Millions die in the span of a few days. The governor, later revealed to be Tzeentch's changeling in disguise, harnesses the psychic upheaval to summon hundreds of his fellow demons. Alerted to the situation on Raxos, Grey Knights from 4 brotherhoods arrive amidst the ongoing civil war. Grand Master Tristan Crom splits his Grey Knights into several strike forces, there to attack the portals from which the demons are drawing their power, and a 4th, under Brother Captain Stern, to aid the spaceport's fleeing refugee shuttles. While Stern safeguards the spaceport, Crom casts broken finger bones of martyred saints at the mouth of each portal to prevent further demons manifesting, and then performs the rites of cleansing and exorcism that finally seal the portals and banish the remaining demons. Yet, as the first refugee shuttles lift off, Stern grows uneasy. The changeling's psychic spore still lingers. With grim certainty, Stern realizes that the demon must have boarded one of the refugee shuttles, now heading for outer orbit. Knowing that his forces are far too few to have any hope of uncovering the hidden changeling in time, but all too aware of the anarchy that the demon will unleash should it reach another populated world, Stern orders the battle barge Brightsword to destroy the shuttles. Hundreds of thousands are slain in the ensuing salvos, their lives sacrificed to preserve millions on distant worlds. The fall of the Red Talon. Brother Captain Stern oversees the destruction of the cult of the Red Talon. The Black Planet. Garen Crow battles Skulltaker, demon champion of Khorne, on the Black Planet, and though he cannot best him in combat, he buys enough time for his brothers to foil the demon's plans. The Battle of Cornovin. Supreme Grand Master Geronitan is slain at the hands of the demon Primarch Mortarion. Grand Master Caldor Drago is elevated to the rank of Supreme Grand Master amidst the din of the battlefield and vows vengeance on Mortarion. Alone and unaided, Drago smashes his way through Mortarion's corrupted death-shroud bodyguard and strikes the Primarch to the ground with a blow empowered by his fury at Gerontion's death. He then casts Supreme Grandmaster Gerontion's name on the demon's vile heart. Though Mortarion ultimately escapes, it is many long years before he can enter the mortal realm once more. The Plague of Madness. Supreme Grandmaster Caldor Drago leads 3 full Grey Knights Brotherhoods against Ixtharganix, the Slayer of Destinies, and his unwitting Nurgle pawn, Lurgon, on the doom world of Dicimalas. The Pandemonium of Sondheim 5. The world of Sondheim 5 is overwhelmed by tyrannids of High Fleet Kraken, just as Makar the Reborn transforms the world into his own private pandemonium. The Sky Sentinels chapter responds, but judge the world irretrievable and make preparations to begin Exterminatus. This is delayed by the arrival of a Grey Knight strike force under the command of Grandmaster Varden Kai. Kai concurs with the Sky Sentinels' assessment, but orders a stay of execution while he and his battle brothers attempt to capture the Book of Pandigaras, the cursed tomb with whose power Makar has mutated the world. Upon landing, Kai discovers the nightmarish fusion of demonic and tyrannid infestations have transformed Sondheim 5 into a death world. When Kai's forces reach the temple in which the tomb lies, they discover the building has been completely subsumed by a knot of tyrannid spore chimneys. Unperturbed, the Grey Knights hack their way through the twisted biomatter. Within seconds of the first blow falling, Kai's forces come under attack by waves of hormagaunts and gargoyles. By the time Kai finally carves a path into the lower levels of the temple, larger creatures start to arrive, and the Grey Knight's casualties begin to tell. Yet as Kai finally lays his hands upon the Book of Pandigaras, unexpected aid arrives. Just as the earlier strike on the biostructures had roused the hive mind's ire, so too does the violation of the evil tome now bring forth the demon's wrath, and the twisted ruins erupt into the anarchy of a 3-way battle. Amidst the chaos, Kai makes contact with the Sky Sentinels' fleet, who begin a systematic bombardment of the temple site. The Grey Knights weather the storm of barrage bombs that drop amongst the ruins. The Tyranids and demons are not so fortunate. When the bombardment ceases, Kai and the surviving Grey Knights evacuate before demon and Tyranid reinforcements can arrive, and begin the journey home to Titan to cage the Book of Pandigaras in the chapter's vaults. The Sky Sentinels begin the Exterminatus that will ravage Sondheim 5. In the wake of the Exterminatus, the Sky Sentinels surrender themselves for a mind wipe. The return to Akrilem. Caldor Drago returns alone to Akrilem to free it from the clutches of Makar the Reborn, hoping to end the chapter's ancient feud with the Demon Prince. Meanwhile, dark forces gather in the warp, and something stirs deep beneath Titan's surface. The prognosticars are plagued by visions of impending doom, and it seems that the citadel of Titan itself might face the threat of attack. Return of the Planet of the Sorcerers. A great shudder ripples through the void as the world of the Thousand Suns, known as the Planet of the Sorcerers, heaves its way back into real space. Each of the 8 Grandmasters consults with the prognosticars. Rise of the Primarch. In response to the prognosticar's visions of destruction on Macragge, Grandmaster Voldus rushes to the aid of the Empire of Ultramar and witnesses the resurrection of the Primarch, Reboot Guilliman, from his millennia-long stasis. With his fellow Grey Knights, Voldus fights alongside Guilliman during his perilous journey to Holy Terra. Many members of the Primarch's retinue fall, though the Grey Knights stand tall in the fight against the numerous warped demons, following Guilliman all the way to the doors of the Emperor's throne room. Millennium 41. Age of Maledictum. Blackest Night. From the Augurium on Titan comes the combined screams of prognosticars as the psychic signal of the Cicatrix Maledictum reaches them, mere days before the first warp tears affect real space. With the Astronomicon extinguished, it is realized that prophetic visions more than 6,000 years old are coming to fruition. This grim knowledge is made all the worse by the fact that, As the great rift begins to tear open, a rumbling grows stronger and stronger on Titan, until the entire moon is beset by ceaseless ground-splitting quakes. The epicenter of these quakes is deep beneath Mount Anarch, directly below the Chambers of Purity. The Silent Reprisal. Grey Knights from every brotherhood, along with paladins and purifiers, are sent racing to worlds that lie along the seams of the Cicatrix Maledictum. As demonic hordes spill into real space, the Grey Knights meet them head-on. Through their efforts, entire worlds are given time to evacuate and flee the oncoming warp maelstorms, though these heroics go unnoticed by the terrified populations. Across many less fortunate planets, where the grip of chaos has already taken hold, the Grey Knights solemnly set about the task of exterminating billions of Imperial citizens. Plagues of Ultramar. The Extractors send Strike Force Quarterly to Ultramar to aid the Ultramarines and the Ordo Sepulchrum in the fight against the Death Guard, who are spreading demonic plagues across the region. With knowledge of the heretic Astartes' viral proclivities gleaned from the tombs in the Sanctum Sanctorum, the Grey Knights are able to cripple 2 Vectoriums of the Death Guard's 4th Company and eradicate the consumptive-phagous strain of the Eater Plague. The Putrid Springs. The 2nd Company of the size of the Emperor, newly reinforced by Primaris Battle Brothers, find itself under siege upon the hive world of Hamagora, assailed by an endless swarm of Nurgle demons. Intercessor squads establish a punishing series of kill zones amongst the ruins of hive world Agrippa. Yet for every demon they slay, 2 emerge from the dank tunnels of the Undercity, and their casualties begin to mount. Operating in total secret, Strike Force Harbinger of the 5th Brotherhood teleports into the sub-city. Their quarry is the great unclean one, Gulgul Makatol, who has turned Agrippa's spawning sewer works into his personal baths. Hordes of putrid demons crawl endlessly forth from the mass of rancid gruel. After a bloody battle, the strike team sends Gulgamakotol screaming into the warp. Hamagora is saved, though the Scythes never discover how. The Brimstone Stampede. The bloodthirster, Zakros Ka, leads his Brimstone Stampede forth from the Great Rift, rampaging across the Caracas sector and slaughtering trillions of Imperial souls. Rallying the newly founded Storm Reapers Primaris chapter to their cause, the warriors of the Grey Knights' 2nd Brotherhood lead a desperate counterattack. While the Storm Reapers launch lightning assaults into the flanks of Zakros Ka's mighty horde, the Sons of Titan strike at its heart. Armed with the Bloodthirster's true name, they destroy Zakros Ka's physical form, though the victory comes at a hideous cost. Drago and Mortarion. With the Great Rift yawning open and pouring all manner of chaos monstrosities into real space, Lord Caldor Drago, Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights, finds he is able to escape his imprisonment in the warp more frequently and for greater lengths of time. Drago materializes to aid his battle brothers in multiple war zones across the Imperium, often turning grim defeat into a decisive victory for the chapter. Though he quickly fades after each encounter, he imparts to the Grey Knights with whom he fights visions of things to come that he has witnessed within the Immaterium. Many of the prognosticars, seeing the strands of ancient hatred that bind the two together, believe that Drago's presence is inextricably linked to that of the demon prince, Mortarion. The way forward. With the Grey Knights' forces stretched thinner than ever before, Caldor Drago appears to each of the Grand Masters and asks their counsel. For the first time in the chapter's history, a particularly dire strategy is given consideration: the Terminus Decree.